Yeah, greetings of the day. Myself, Dr. Mohammed Shaik. So today we are going to learn about AngularJS, which is a web technology that is being used very oftenly by most of the developers in software industry nowadays. So let us see the overview of AngularJS for web development. So let us start with our first video in this particular lecture or playlist of web technologies. So the first one is Introduction to AngularJS. We'll go very step by step. We'll go in this aspect. So what is AngularJS? So AngularJS is a open source front end. Open source means which is freely available where you can use as per modifications as you require. So AngularJS is an open source front end. So we have front end, we have back end. So backend mainly deals with the database part or a file or maybe some cloud storage where you are going to store the data. So here we are concentrating only on the front end part. So front end part is the part or the view that is visible to the end user. So we mainly concentrate on the front end part where we also work on the rest of the layers. We'll study that as the video goes on. So AngularJS is an open source front-end web application framework. We are having many frameworks. Python is having separate framework, .NET is having separate framework. Like that, we also have a framework called as AngularJS. So now we are going to study about this AngularJS that is developed by Google. So Google has its own framework. So this framework is got very importance due to the back tagging of Google. So it is used for building dynamic single page web applications. So what is this dynamic web page? Maybe a static web page where we write the tons of code and based on that code the output will come. So it is not going to modify. That page never get modified. It's called as a static web page. Whereas depending on a certain criteria, depending on a certain condition, so if you are having some condition for a particular task, then we go with a dynamic web page. So using AngularJS, we are going to create a dynamic web page. So, and that too, a single page web application. We don't have multiple pages. Generally, what happens when we deal with a shopping application? So, what we have over here is we'll be having one home page, one products page, maybe one payment page may be there, and one more description page may be there. So, one orders page may be there. So, this is general criteria for creation of web page. But here, when we are using AngularJS, we don't have multiple pages. We are going to create only one page, and that page is going to update itself as per the requirement. Okay. So this is called as single page web applications, SPA, and provides a structure for developing complex web applications. So AngularJS is structured. Like we have C programming language, which is a structured one. Similar to that, we also have this AngularJS, which is going to follow some structure in coding. So that structure is used for developing complex web applications or easy web applications. So this is regarding what is the AngularJS part. So now let us study the key features of AngularJS. What is the first one here representing is two-way data binding. Automatically updates the view whenever the model changes. So this completely AngularJS is depending on model view architecture. So this is called as model view architecture. It is two-way data binding, not a single way one-to-one binding work. It is two-way from model to view, view to model. In both the ways, it is going to bind. So two-way data binding. What it is, two-way data binding is a powerful feature in AngularJS that ensures the synchronization of model. What is model? Model means data. And view. What is view? The user interface that we are going to use or we are going to design. User interface is called as a view, and data is represented for model, or model represents data. So this data or model are synchronized automatically, which means any change made in the model is immediately reflected in the view, and whatever the modification that is reflected in the view means view is also going to modify certain parts. For example, you are having checkboxes, maybe you are having list options. Whenever you select a list option or a checkbox, you are going to select the content of the further page is going to change. So vice versa. So how it works? When a user interacts with a view, AngularJS updates the model. Similarly, when a model changes through the controller or a service, we have many services that we are going to study in our further classes. So based on the controller or the service, the model changes. So the views also updates. When a model change, the view have to update automatically. So this reduces the need for manual DOM. DOM means document object model. We are going to study about DOM. Maybe if you are familiar with XML, you might have studied about DOM, SAX. These two are parsers that we have. DOM is a parser, SAX is a parser. So we mainly concentrate on DOM parser. So it manipulates and simplifies the development of a dynamic application. We are concentrating on dynamic applications. So, for example, if we are having an input field and a model variable name bound to it, when a user types in the input, the name variable in the model will be updated. And if the model's value is updated programmatically, the view reflects that change. For example, when you open your Gmail account or Facebook account, at the top, you will be having the name. If you modify that, then that has to be reflected. So this concept comes under two-way data binding. I hope it is understood. Now let us go to the next one, MVC architecture. Model View Controller. MVC stands for Model View Control. This is an architecture. What it does, it separates logic, data, and presentation layers. We have one layer called as logic layer, one layer called as data layer, another one is called as presentation layer. So, what is this model? Model represents the data we already have seen in the previous point, or business logic. What is business logic? The constraints or the conditions imposed are called as business logic. Constraints or conditions imposed are called as business logic. So what is this business logic? For example, your university works or your organizations works from 9 to 5, for example. You should not upgrade any record after 9 to 5. There may be such condition made there. Okay. So this is one example of business logic. So view represents the user interface that displays the data for the user. So controller handles user interactions. What is this controller? It handles user interactions. It updates the models or manipulates the model. And whenever the model is modified, you need to update the view. If the view is updated, you need to modify the model. This part is handled by the controller. So what is the benefit of having these three, model, view, and controller? The separation of concerns improve code organization. How better you can organize your code. That part is going to be very accurate. The second importance is reusability. So once you write the code, you can reuse. And once you write that, reusability concept is also one thing. Apart from that, we also have scalability, where we can upgrade or downgrade the model as per our requirement. So this is regarding MVC architecture. The next one is a dependency injection that makes testing and dependency management. Okay. So what is this dependency injection? Is a design pattern. Dependency injection is a design pattern used in AngularJS to manage dependencies between different components. We don't have a single component, we have multiple components. A text box is a component, a button is a component, a complete form may be called as a component or collection of components. One component may depend on another component. For example, you are using a login page. A login page will have username and password and a submit button. Unless you provide username and password, the button submit should not get executed. Okay, so I can say that the button submit button is depending on username text field as well as password text field. So there may be many components that are depending on one another. There may be independent components also. Okay, that is most rare one, rarest of rare, that a component is independent, like date and time may be independent with respect to other components. So here we have dependent components. It allows you to inject services, functions, or values into a controller. So what it does, it injects which one? The controller. Injects services, functions, or values into a controller or a service or directive without manually creating and managing them. So everything is going to happen automatically. So how it helps? Dependency injection, how it helps? So dependency injections make it easier to manage dependencies between various parts of the application. It improves the code modularity and testability. So modularity means you are going to write multiple functions where one function may depend on another because there may be a function call, a function may return a value back. Okay, so this concept is dependability. So code may be improved, modularity may be improved, and testability is going to get improved because we can easily identify where the bug is, where the issue is. Okay, so this can be mocked or replaced during unit testing. So what is unit testing? Whenever we develop the code, a developer is going to cross check whether all the requirements have been fulfilled, which are given in our requirements document, SRS document, software requirements specification document. A end user is going to give all the requirements that analyst is going to note down. Okay, so whenever the analyst notes down, the document is called as SRS, Software Requirement Specification Document. Now, this document is given to the developer first. Developer writes a code as per the requirement, seeing that SRS document. Then after that, he or she is going to cross check whether we have designed that software as per the requirements given by the user or not. Now, that testing of that particular application designed by a developer is called as unit testing. If it is tested by a tester, is the other entity or a person or a different company or anyone else, is called as beta testing. So we are concentrating here on unit testing. So this dependency injection is going to implement on unit testing. So this is regarding dependency injection. Then we have directives. These directives are going to extend HTML with custom tags and attributes. So what is this custom tag? I hope you might have studied XML earlier. If you haven't studied, no issue at all. So HTML tags are extended. What is this directive first of all? A directive is a special markers of an element. Special markers on an element like HTML tags or attributes that extend HTML with custom behavior. A hyperlink may be there, it may be have different attributes. A div tag may be there, which may be having different attributes, so and so forth. Many things are there. So AngularJS, Angular JavaScript is going to provide a set of built-in directives. But developers can also create custom directives. We have built-in directives, we have custom directives. A user can create their own directives. So they can have their own tags. That extension part is called as custom directive. If you use the built-in ones, then they are called as built-in directives. So why we require these directives, first of all? So directives allows you to create reusable components. So most of the software industry nowadays is running on reusable components. Already you have designed, use it if you can. So that is called as a reusable component. So directives allow you to create a reusable component. What it does, it enhances the HTML functionality and manipulate the DOM, document object model, which is a parser that executes our all tags in that particular file. Okay, so that is DOM. So we have common directives in AngularJS that includes ng model, ng repeat, ng click. So like this, we have built in those things we are going to study once we come across those things. Okay, the next lectures. So AngularJS is having built-in directives like ng-click, ng-repeat, ng-model. These things we'll study. Okay. So the next one is templates. So what template is? This is the major part in AngularJS, templates. A template in AngularJS defines the structure of user interface, how the user interface must be, what it comprises of, what are the colors, margins, paddings, whatever it is. So all those things comes under templates. And AngularJS defines the structure. Sorry, a template in AngularJS defines the structure of user interface. They contain both HTML and AngularJS expressions. So how the expressions in AngularJS are denoted with curly braces, flower brackets, two flower brackets at the beginning, two flower brackets at the last of that expression. So expression will be in the middle. Before that expression, two open flower brackets. After expression, two closed flower brackets. It is also going to follow MVC architecture because we need to dynamically evaluate and update whatever is there in the flower brackets. That we'll see in the next class. So, okay, that is regarding template. So next one is services. What is a service? Service is a reusable business logic for applications. So in AngularJS, anyhow, it is having reusable components that encapsulates the business logic while we are doing data retrieval or other functionalities are implemented that can be shared across controllers and other services. What are these controllers, etc., etc.? We'll see in the next class. Okay. So, what is the main purpose of having a service? Why we need a service? A service allows for modular code. We don't have continuous code. We have modular code dividing into modules or functions, whatever you call, which can be easily tested and reused. The main thing is tested and reused. They help to keep the controllers learn by offloading the tasks, such as fetching the data, because we have a limited RAM or memory. We'll be fetching the data, we'll be removing the data, flushing out the data, or performing computations. When we compute any instruction, if you have multiple computations, we have intermediate results to be stored. So those things can be called as a service again. Okay. So this is regarding services. So the last one is filters. We have filters used for formatting the data in a view. So AngularJS is used to format the data before it is displayed on the view. So before displaying on the view, AngularJS has to format the data. Okay, they can modify the output of expressions, making them easier to present, dynamic in nature. So formatting dates, maybe currencies. Some websites will be having a dollar symbol, some websites may be having a euro symbol, some websites may have a rupee symbol. Everywhere the data is converted as per the day's market value. Okay, so this concept comes under filters. Based on a location, you change the language of ads in YouTube. Okay, there may be what is a locality as a service. Okay, this concept came into cloud recently. So why we require common built-in filters? Okay. So AngularJS comes with several built-in filters like currency, date, lowercase, uppercase, filter, etc., etc. So those things we'll study. So what is a custom filter? So by name itself, we say that a custom filter is a filter that we are going to create as a developers. Okay, and we apply specific formatting for the data also if we require. So somebody may want to display the date, month, and year. Some may want to display month, date, and year. So some may want to display day first, Sunday, Monday, the complete name. So these are the different formats that a user can select or a developer may select require to select. So these are some of the examples of filters. So now let us see what exactly we studied in this particular slide. Let us summarize AngularJS features. So we have a two-way data binding. It ensures that updates to the view and model are automatically synchronized. That is the first one. Second one is MVC architecture. It helps in separating concerns for better maintainability and testing. Okay. Then we have seen dependency injection. It is going to provide us a ease in managing the services and enhances the modularity. So directives, it extends HTML with custom tags and attributes for reusable components. So we have seen templates, HTML structures that bind data automatically through a AngularJS expression. Okay. So the next one is services, reusable business logic that binds data dynamically through AngularJS expressions. So services, reusable business logic, that's and filters modify and format the data when we present on a view, how we want the data to be. So each of these features contribute in making AngularJS more powerful framework for building complex, dynamic, and scalable web application as per your requirement. If you so this is regarding key features. Let us go to the next slide. So that is components of Angular. So module. What is a module? In AngularJS, a module is a container. A module is a container for different parts of AngularJS application. Modules are used to organize an application into distinct local pieces or logical pieces. Like we have controllers, we have services, we have directives, maybe filters and other AngularJS components. All this comes under modules. So why we require a module? What is the need? Modules help to manage the application components. So it defines dependencies and ensures that everything is loaded in the right order. What is the first? What is the next? What is the next? So a right order is being used. They're also used for dependency injection, making it easier to manage and share services across an application that we design at the end. So that is regarding components, that is modules. So what is the benefit of modules? Code organization is very simple. It makes testing easier. It enables lazy loading for optimization. Lazy loading for optimization. That is enabled using this component called as modules. Okay. So this is regarding modules. Now directives. So we have DOM. Whenever we have a directive, is a special marker or attribute in DOM. What DOM is going to do? A DOM is going to implement HTML elements or execute HTML elements that extend HTML with custom behavior or add new functionality to the core building blocks in AngularJS. So what it does, it allows us to create custom HTML tags. So that is directives. For example, we are having attributes like ng model, ng bind, ng repeat, ng hyphen. Okay. So these are the directives that we use. And whenever we use them, in the form of a element, we use Angular brackets in front and after that one, like ng model. If we are creating a model like an element, use Angular brackets. Okay, so these are some of the things. So we have classes and components also. So directives can be used as a CSS class, cascading style sheet classes where we can have our styling, colors, etc., etc. Or we can also use it as HTML components. So what is the main purpose? So the purpose over here is for directives can be used to manipulate the DOM, document object model parser. So directives can be used to manipulate DOM. It extends HTML syntax. It handles events and creates reusable components. So that is the main task. And we also have some custom directives. So custom directives are the directives that we create as per our requirement. So mainly for UI, maybe user interface, or maybe for implementing business logic, maybe encapsulating the logic. Hmm? So it makes code more modular and maintainable, easy to test, easy to reuse. So the next one is controller. JavaScript functions that control the behavior of views. So a controller in JavaScript functions provides data with behavior to the views. Data with behavior to the views. What it does, it manages applications behavior by handling user inputs and processes them. So controllers are responsible for interacting with models. So model means service or data. Okay, service or data, and update the views accordingly as per our requirement. So what does controller do? Controllers bind data from the model to the view. Bind model to the view. They also handle business logic by managing events and processing user input. So a controller is linked to a specific part of view using ng controller directive. ng controller directive. So the data and functions defined in the controller are accessible with the HTML template, that is controls. Okay, so we'll come into this one once we start coding. The last but one is views, not last but one, views. So views are HTML templates that represents the user interface. Okay. So in AngularJS, the views are HTML templates. The views are HTML templates. What they do, they define what the user sees in the user interface. Views are typically bound to controllers, and they consist of HTML and AngularJS expressions. So what is the purpose? The purpose of the view is presentation layer. So the presentation layer is the one that displays the data received from the model and handles user interactions. So the views are dynamic and can automatically update based on the model state. You cannot rely on view. They can modify at any time. So that is called as two-way binding in AngularJS actually. Okay. So the view provides a clear separation of concerns from the logic. So controller, it automatically syncs with the data, reducing manual DOM interactions. So manual DOM is not required. Once you change the controller, view changes. Model, view changes. So last but one is services. So we have reusable business logic that can be injected into controllers. So what it does? Services are reusable pieces of business logic. Business logic means rules, conditions imposed by the end user. What I want, what I don't want, how I want, etc. etc. So that is called as business logic. It can be shared across different components of the application. So services are often used to handle operations such as HTTP request and HTTP response. Two things are there. So here in services, we take only HTTP request. What I am getting as a server, what I need to do is provide as a service is second part. What I'm getting as a request. So where I need to store the data storage, or what are the complex calculations I need to perform? These three things: HTTP request, process the data, data storage, complex applications, complex processing, and data storage. So these services provide a way to organize and modularize the logic. They can be injected into controllers, directives, and other services to share the same functionality across various parts of an application. So what it does, it promotes reusability anyhow, simplifies unit testing to be performed by a developer. So the last one what we have is filters. Filters format the data for display in the view. So format data in display the view means what? They can modify the presentation of the data without changing the actual data in the model. Okay. So we have built-in filters, we have custom filters. AngularJS provides many built-in functions, filters like upper, lower, currency, conversions, lowercase, uppercase, papers, etc. Custom is those we develop. It's what we studied in our last slide on. So let us move to the next slide. AngularJS expressions. So what are the expressions we have in AngularJS? Second, these expressions are the essential part of AngularJS. They are used in binding the data in a view with the model. Model means the JavaScript code. Expressions in AngularJS allows dynamic updates to the view whenever the data changes. They are similar to JavaScript expressions, but with some important differences, particularly in how they interact with the DOM and the AngularJS model. DOM and AngularJS model. So what are AngularJS expressions? AngularJS expression is a code snippet that evaluates in the context of AngularJS scope. We have a scope. Within the scope, they are usually written inside the HTML template and enclosed by double curly braces. Just now we see two flower brackets opening, two flower brackets ending. In between that we write the expression. So AngularJS expressions are reactive. When the underlying data in the model changes, the corresponding expression in the view also gets updated. So for example, we may open a website in the morning, you may get a message, good morning. A greeting may be there. So once you go to the noon session, so that greeting may change automatically saying good afternoon. And vice versa, it may happen with good evening and good night. So those things are going to change with respect to time. This is the work of expressions. So expression evaluation, when AngularJS renders the page, renders means loading the page. Whenever AngularJS renders the page, it will evaluate the expressions inside the curly braces and displays the result in the place of that expression. So we have types of AngularJS. Simple expressions may be there. So we may write in flower brackets 5 is 5, we may get the result as 10. Exactly what happens in Python. Okay. So in the command prompt of Python, if we type 5 plus 5, we may get the result directly 10. The same thing. But what we are doing here, in between two tags, div tag, opening div tag, and ending div tag, in between, if you write into the curly brackets, two curly brackets opening, then 5 plus 5, two curly brackets at the end. It will give you the result 10 instead of 5 plus 5 and the curly brackets. So we have data binding. So AngularJS binds variables from the scope to the view using expressions. Scope to the view using expressions. If the model data changes, the view automatically updates. So for example, we may have a username. So generally for any user in the world, we will be having same email page. You may use Gmail, Hotmail, whatever it is. So the page will be common for every user, but the data is going to change on it depending on the login. Who is logging into that application? It may be a Gmail, it may be a Facebook, it may be any application. Okay. So in that place, the name is going to change. Welcome, Muhammad Ali, Dr. Muhammad. So that thing may change with you. Your name may be displayed. Now the page remains same, but data binding is going to change. Based on the login, the data may be bind to me, the data may be bind to you. So operations and methods, we may have addition of two strings. We can use plus symbols. We may have mathematical calculations like addition, subtraction, multiplication. Similar to Python, the same thing is implemented here. So we also have filters. So AngularJS provides built-in filters displaying currency. So we can display a dollar symbol before any number, a rupee symbol, a euro symbol, adding those things. So many things are there. We have conditional expressions also, where we can use a ternary operator. We can use if conditions, etc., like what we have seen in programming languages like C, C++, Java, Python. The same thing we can do use here also in conditional expressions. So if we have a empty flower brackets twice, then it is called as no binding. No binding. So we have automatic rebinding, no control flow for loops. We can handle filters also. Okay. So there are also differences between AngularJS expressions and JavaScript. What are differences we have? One is scope. AngularJS expressions are evaluated in AngularJS scope, not in global JavaScript scope. So we have something called as global JavaScript scope, which is not there in AngularJS. AngularJS can automatically manage and bind variables to its view. That is not there in JavaScript. So there is no side effect. JavaScript AngularJS expressions are pure and should not have side effects like changing global variables or performing IO operations. So when we change a global variable, then that impact will be there then henceforth. Whereas we don't have this side effect in AngularJS. So automatic update is another one. AngularJS expressions are automatically updated with changes in the scope. Whereas in JavaScript, we need to manually update the DOM. So that is another one, re-rendering of elements. So we also have many advantages in AngularJS. So simplification of code is one among them. Because of dynamic view updates, simplification of code is there, improved productivity is there. So we also have disadvantages or limitations in AngularJS. One is security. Security is a major concern in every aspect. You take cloud, you take apps, you take anything. Here also that is AngularJS expressions are automatically evaluated. So that's why we have, or the developer must be cautious when binding untrusted data or expressions. When we use the third-party APIs, so at the time, the security is a concern, okay, everywhere. So we have limited logic in AngularJS. That is another issue because we will be not supporting complex logic in AngularJS. So we have control statements like if statements or loops directly. For such logic, developers should rely on controllers and directives, not loops. Okay. So these are some of the things that we have seen in this particular slide. So let us go to the next one. So two-way data binding is the same thing. So two-way data binding is a key feature in AngularJS. What is this? It plays a pivotal role in building dynamic web applications. It simplifies the process of synchronization between model and view. That ensures the changes in the model are automatically reflected on the view and vice versa. The feature is to building a responsive, real-time interfaces with minimal effort. Minimal effort is very important. So what is two-way binding? Two-way binding means that the data flow between view and model happens in both the directions, not in a single direction. Okay, so when we deal with one-way data binding, data flows in only one direction, model to view or view to model. This can be sufficient for simple applications where the view is static and does not need to reflect users in immediately. But nowadays we are having most of the applications that require two-way data binding. Some applications are there which may be one-way data binding. For example, the dollar rate is going to change once in a day, not every hour or every minute. So this one can be a part of one-way data binding. Okay. But syntax is going to change all the time. Syntax does not come under one-way data binding. It changes every minute or every second. So that concept is handled in two-way data binding. What is this two-way data binding? The data flows in both the directions. Any change made to the view through the user interface automatically updates the model, and changes in the model like data updates automatically will update the view. Let me again repeat. Data flows in both the directions in two-way data binding. Any change made in the view through the user interaction automatically updates the model, and changes in the model like data updates. The dollar price may increase. Okay. The number of stocks might have purchased more or less. So the modification or the changes in the model automatically updates the view. This creates a more dynamic and responsive application. In AngularJS, this two-way binding feature is automatically handled, meaning you don't need to write any custom code to update the view or model when either side changes. Okay, so AngularJS using one tag is there, ng-model for two-way binding in the forms. We use ng-model for two-way binding in the forms, or input fields, or any interactive element, whichever the element you feel that it is going to interact. So use that one, ng-model. Okay. So we have model, view, binding, the same concept, how the view is two-way by data is binding is works. So model, the data stored in the JavaScript variables or object. View, that represents the user interface. Binding, so AngularJS creates a connection between the model and the view via ngbind or ngmodel. These two are used, ngbind or ngmodel. With two-way data binding, AngularJS keeps the model and view in a synchronization, automatically ensuring both the data in the JavaScript and user interface are consistent without requiring manual DOM updates. We don't require DOM updates, whereas JavaScript requires DOM updates. So, what are the steps involved in two-way binding? AngularJS takes the model data and updates the view. Whenever a change happens in the model, AngularJS automatically updates the corresponding view element. So view to model binding. So AngularJS listens for the changes in the view. Continuously it listens. Okay. Action listener. One class is there, action listener class. So AngularJS automatically reflects the changes in the underlying model. So this is called as two-way synchronization or two-way binding. And the directive used is ng-model or ng-bind. Okay, both of them can be used. So what is this ng-model directive? It is called as ng-model directive. What it is? ng-model directive binds the value of an HTML input element. We have input elements in HTML. What are they? Input type is equal to text, input type is equal to radio, input type is equal to password. Input types are, many types are there. Okay, date, input type is equal to file. So these input types are linked with this particular ng-model tag. Okay, so whenever the input field value changes, AngularJS updates the model simply. Okay, and whenever the model changes, the field automatically changes. So model to view binding, whenever, for example, we are having a username, if it is an empty string, the model must be updated. When the user types in the input field, then the AngularJS reflects the change in H1 tag dynamically, for example. Whatever you type in the input box, that must be reflected in a H1 tag above. Then that can also be done model to view binding. So coming to view to model binding, When the user types in the input field, the value of the username is updated automatically. So if you're typing in lowercase letters, it must be converted into uppercase letters if required. Okay. So that can be done using view to model binding. So what are the advantages of two-way binding? Sorry. Yeah. What are the advantages of two-way binding? We have automatic synchronization. So the most significant advantage is automatic synchronization between the model and the view. So AngularJS takes care of updating the DOM when the model changes or when the controls or view changes. Saving developers time and reducing the chance of errors is done by automatic synchronization. What it does, it simplifies the code. With two-way data binding, developers do not need to manually write the code. They don't need to manually write the code to update the view or the model. It simplifies the code, making it easier to read and maintain the data. So we also get real-time updates. That is another advantage. The feature allows for real-time interaction between the user and the app. For example, in forms or dynamic content generation, the model updates as the user interacts with the view, ensuring the interface remains in sync with the application state. The another one is reduced boilerplate. There is a concept called as reduced boilerplate. What is this reduced boilerplate? Without two-way data binding, developers would have to manually listen for the changes in the view and update the model and vice versa, whatever it is. So two-way data binding reduces the amount of boilerplate code required to maintain the application's state. I hope it is understood now. Okay. So enhanced user experience. So once we use these things, we will get enhanced user experience with two-way binding. So because we have view updates, because the view updates automatically, whenever the model changes, provides a seamless interaction, that is enhanced user experience. So whether we have any drawbacks in two-way data binding, yes. Number one, performance issue in large applications. If I'm having a massive application with massive data, so this one is a drawback. Two-way data binding is a drawback. Why? While two-way data binding simplifies the development, it can lead to performance issues in large applications. Not small applications, nothing to worry, but the application is large with huge amount of data, climate data, etc., etc. Okay. So since AngularJS consistently watches for changes to the model and updates the view, this can be resource intensive, especially when bindings are involved in complex or nested components. So we also have nested components. Okay. So next one is another issue is debugging complexity. So debugging may become difficult in large applications because multiple bindings can cause unexpected behavior. So that is a major issue when data changes, especially when there are many layers of directives and controllers. So debugging complexity may rise. Then less control over the data. That is another disadvantage. In complex applications, having automatic synchronizations between model and view might introduce bugs, as an automatic update may not always align with the developer's expectations. So some developers may prefer explicit control over the data flow in more complex scenarios. So explicit control over data flow. So whether we have any other frameworks apart from this one AngularJS, yes, we have React.js. Apart from AngularJS, we also have a React.js. React. It is a one-way data flow, unidirectional, whereas this one is bidirectional, two-way. Okay. So AngularJS is a two-way data binding. Okay. When we use two-way data binding in real-time data, when we are handling simple applications, when we have forms with input boxes, check boxes, radio buttons, and other interactive elements. Two-way data binding is very useful as it automatically reflects users' inputs whenever the model is changed. So this is regarding this slide. Let us go to next one. So this is one example of much awaited one example of AngularJS code. You might be much awaited. So here you can see we have div ng app is equal to my app. So we are designing my app over here. So ng controller, my controller. So if you can see over here, we are having the second. I'll annotate. The second is this annotation. Yeah, spotlight. Yeah. You can see here in flower brackets greeting. Now this is called as AngularJS expression. Whatever the greeting that we provide, that will be replaced with this particular h1 tag. Okay. So here we are giving input tag. We are using ng model is equal to greeting in double quotes. This is an attribute value. Don't get confused with this greeting and this greeting. Here greeting is element. AngularJS element. So here that is used with $scope dot greeting is equal to hello AngularJS. In the place of hello AngularJS, if you write your name will be replaced with this greeting text. And whenever you type anything over here, that will be replaced with this text. So just try to use this text in a normal HTML file and execute it. See how the things are going to change. Provided you see your AngularJS is supported. So how to install this AngularJS, that we'll see in the next video. As of now, what I mean to say over here is we are having a controller over here. We are having an Angular module. So I'm giving it as my app. So this name and this name must be matched. Okay. So use any custom tags based on your application or the page name. Okay. So this my app and this my app must be matched. What about this square brackets? We'll see in the forthcoming classes. So app.controller, we are creating a controller. What is the name of the controller? My control, my CTRI. Okay, is the name of the controller. What it does, it is having a function with a $scope. Okay, so then we are saying $scope.greeting is equal to hello AngularJS. So this greeting is replaced with this particular AngularJS element. Okay, and this can be modified with the input. So a lot of things are there. Okay, so let us go to the next slide then. So let us open the documentation. Okay, so here I'll share. No, I'll share the screen once again. Okay. So yeah, this will be preferable. So, yeah, this is our website. It's our university website. So let us. You can go through this website, sru.edu.in. So now let us open the documentation of AngularJS. So I'll go with Google. Oh, sorry. So type here AngularJS documentation. So you can see here AngularJS docs. Just open that one. So this is the main area where we are going to work. Okay. So here you can see the developer guide, which is having different templates, application structure, other features. So core concepts, data binding, expressions, interpolation, directives, views and rules, filters, HTML compiler, forms, altogether what we discussed in this video so far. So app writing, dependency injections, scopes, bootstrapping in app, then communicating with the server, HTTP, server request, HTTP resource. So animation parts, security, integration and localization, touching events whenever we touch something, a particular object on the app. a component on the app, element on the app, what we need to do. So unit testing using Karma, unit testing, testing services, end-to-end testing. So community resources are there. External AngularJS resources are also there. So JS field, official communication, you can communicate with them. So this is what is the home page of the AngularJS. Okay. So here at the left-hand side, I hope you can view. Just a second, I'll annotate. Yeah. So here at the left-hand side, you can see this developer guide. So here we can learn from here. You can execute the code. You can copy the code elements, and you can use that code to modify your page. Let us see how this happens. So here at the left-hand side, you are having introduction, external resources, conceptual or data binding. Now let us see what is this data binding. We are saying one-way data binding, two-way data binding. AngularJS supports two-way data binding. So click on the data binding. Now see here, data binding in AngularJS apps is the automatic synchronization of data between the model and view components. The way the AngularJS implement data binding lets you treat the model as single source of truth in your application. The view is the project, sorry, just a second. Yeah. So data binding in class template system, one-way data binding. So we have model to view, only one-way directional, or template to view. So we have data binding in AngularJS in bi-direction. So we have model to view, view to model. The continuous updates are going to go on in the model in a single source of truth. So the change in the view of the update model, change in the model updates view, so bidirectional. So this is template is going to compile. So this is in our AngularJS. So if you want to see the code that is performed on this one, you can see, for example, expressions. So we discussed about expressions also in this. So when we click on this, we can just go through the AngularJS expressions. We said anything in double flower brackets or curly brackets. So here you can see span, title, attribute binding. Okay. So this is how we are going to have this concept. Attribute binding, text binding means we are modifying an attribute of an expression or HTML tag. So for example, we can also have this 1 plus 2, a plus b, user dot name, item index. This can be replaced in the place of this content, text binding or whatever it is. 1 plus 2 you can write over there. Okay. So for example, we can see an example over here. Span is a tag in HTML, a general one. So 1 plus 2 is equal to, in flower brackets, twice 1 plus 2. Then the result will be on the screen as 1 plus 2 is equal to 3. This value will be evaluated. So this is another example what we have over here. So input type is equal to text, ng model is equal to expression. So here we are giving ng model is equal to. So this is where our two-way binding comes into picture. If you don't give this ng model attribute for this particular tag, it won't implement AngularJS over here. So here we are also having add expression evaluate. Now you can see here parent dot evaluate expression. So this is how it is going to evaluate. Okay. And here we are having one AngularJS expression. So these things are there that we study in our coming classes or videos. So here we are having one more example where ng controller is used. We are having this div class, div element as a controller. Then we are taking a model is equal to name. You can give any name over there. So ng click, you need to execute a greet method. So window.alert should not see me. So one window.alert message we are saying. For example, you are typing here SRU, SR University. So click on greet, you will get hello SRU. One dialog box is appearing. So Okay. So if you click on won't greet, you are not getting any dialog box. So this code is for getting this kind of information. So what it is it is happening with a two-way data binding. Whatever the text we are typing here, when we click on greet, that is displayed here on a hello SRU. So that content is changed. So we are changing on the view. It is getting changed on the control. What is that view model? It is getting changed on the model. So just click on OK. So this is how we are going to execute our AngularJS. So this is the conditional statement over here. The ternary operator is used or conditional expression is used. So here, for example, if you see here, here we are having click event. So now we are checking whether there is a click operation or not. If it is true, then click event must be executed, other JSON must be executed. So this code is equivalent to that one. If you click on event, event must be executed, otherwise JSON must be executed. So we have one-time binding also. So how one-time binding is implemented? So here we have this double colon, then the expression. Double colon, then the expression. So one-time binding, normal binding. You can go through this document. This document provides you with a lot of information. And again, in the coming videos that I'll take, that will be completely based on this document only. We use this document to record or to program other videos. So we have here filters, forms, so simple form using CSS. So simple form using CSS elements. So now here we don't have the classical CSS tags. Okay, style is equal to. So here we have ng valid, ng invalid, ng key, valid key, invalid key, persistent. We can also use the traditional CSS, but an extra addition is performed for this one. Okay. So these things we'll study in the forthcoming classes. So here we are having directives. So we have directives in AngularJS. So here we can see ng model, data ng model. Many things are there. Just stay excited. If you are very excited, you can go to this particular page and you can start learning on yourself also. Nothing great is there. Decorators are there. Bootstrapping is there. So we have bootstrapping. So bootstrapping means already the code is available that we can reuse. So automatic initialization is performed on the browser. So many things are there. We'll study. Nothing to worry. So we have unit testing. As we discussed, the developer is going to test the code. We are having tools for that. We have a dependency injection, where every element is going to depend on another element. We are going to see the dependency among the elements. So we have a Jasmine behavior-driven development framework. We can use that one. Angular mocks is there. Testing controllers are there. A lot of stuff is there actually. So we have E2E testing, end-to-end testing, we call it as. Using proctor-based testing means some third party is going to depend. So this is regarding these things. Yes, you can go through. We also have running in production. We have a developer guide over here. So core concepts are there. Application structure is there. Dependency injection scopes, HTTP, $HTTP. If you can see that $HTTP, generally we use this one for handling AngularJS services, mainly AngularJS services. Okay. So general usage is the HTTP service is a function which takes a single argument, a configuration object that is called as. It is used to generate a HTTP request and it returns a response that is called as a promise over here. Okay, so many things are there. We'll just go through one after another. So let's get back. We are having running in production. So running an AngularJS app in production. Production means once we give to a client, there the project or the application must run. So that concept is called as production. Debug data. So when we execute the code, there may be some warnings or errors. Those should not be visible. Then we are going to disable this debug data option. CDI mode. So just go through all these things. So let us come back to our uh, slide PPT. Yeah. So this slide is over. Let us go to our next slide. Yeah, this one. Just a second. Next slide. Okay. So let us conclude this particular video. AngularJS is a powerful framework for building dynamic web applications. That what we have seen in this particular session so far. It offers features like two-way data binding. React.js is one-way data binding. AngularJS is two-way data binding. MVC architecture is there, model, view, controller. And we have the major advantage of this AngularJS is reusable components. Once we create them, we are going to use them. Okay, making it easier to manage complex web applications. So it is very easy to handle these complex web applications. I hope in this video you have a clear understanding about what is AngularJS, just introduction part, nothing more than that. Okay, so if you feel that you didn't got anywhere, just enable the what is that captions and go slowly in this video. Okay, if you want to revise this video, that will be a better option. Just to start rewinding the video and listening the video. I hope this video will help you to clearly understand what is AngularJS, what is the power of AngularJS, what are the components that we have, that is model, view, controller, and what is this two-way binding concept. Two-way binding concept. So in the next video, we are going to study how to configure the environment to run AngularJS, and we are going to see the programming part. Okay. So I hope this video is a better one for your understanding. Let's stop the video over here. If you have any doubts or any clarifications or any suggestions, please feel free to type in comments. Okay, I'll enable the comments. You can do it. Thanks for watching the video. Have a great day ahead.